Hey guys, Ian here from Final Line Gaming, and if this is where you're joining us, you need to know something. First, this is a part 2 of a video series that will cover the entire Mass Effect trilogy review-wise. If you haven't seen it yet, and you really want to know, you can find part 1 here. So, without further ado, let's get into what's widely considered as one of the best games in the entire Mass Effect trilogy, and that's Mass Effect 2. Now, the second game immediately garnered attention by using some controversial marketing for it, by making a sequence that listed Commander Shepard as missing in action. And that's a promise the game really does fulfill by starting off with the original Normandy being destroyed by a mysterious vessel. Now, BioWare decided they wanted you to be able to take your personal Commander Shepard across all three games, and even found a way to make sure the choices you made in the first game do indeed carry over into the second one. They even went one step farther and made DLC that allowed you to go through and make the major decisions from the first game as well. Sadly, though, it was paid DLC that forced those who got the second game on a different platform to pay again to get their previous choices properly reflected in the second game. But anyway, let's get back to the review. So now we return back to the destruction of the original Normandy, and you see Commander Shepard dead. But alas, a group you encounter called Cerberus has found your remains and are attempting to rebuild you like the $6 million man himself. Now, after being woken up in a strange place by a strange woman claiming to save you, the game walks you through the intro, and it starts throwing at you both new characters as well as some wonderful returning faces as you discover that the creatures who killed you in the first place are a mysterious race of aliens called the Collectors, and they've been busy attacking human colonies and abducting the residents, and you even eventually find evidence of a connection between them and the Reapers from the first game. So after you get a new ship, you start off on your mission to recruit the most elite team of badasses ever assembled, excluding the A-Team. And one of the biggest things this game gets right is indeed its characterization. Literally every character here in this game is amazing. You see, instead of focusing on Shepard's changing dynamic as a character like they did in the first game, BioWare decided to put a lot of focus instead on your squad mates, of which they're almost double from the first game. One of the biggest ways they do this is through a loyalty mission mechanic, where after you've delved into a crew member's backstory enough, some pivotal action happens in their lives that they need your help to take care of. And with all of them but one, it really does help you to understand your crew members more. The negative about this, however, is that one, if you haven't invested enough time into either Paragon or Renegade, you can lose the loyalty of one crew member you've already gained if they have an altercation after a mission. This happens quite a bit with both Miranda and Jack, as well as Tali and Legion. Now, every character has their own mannerisms that make them truly unique, from their motivations to their actions and banter between one another. And it's just one of the small things I can truly say about this game is that you will be connected to each and every crew member aboard the new Normandy SR2. So after you start developing your team, you gear up for an assault on the Collector's base, which is often referred to as a suicide mission, so you know you're going to have to prepare. Now, this is where some of the negatives come into play. Since it's a suicide mission, you're going to need a few things. One, loyalty from all your crew members, all the upgrades for your ship, and you also have to decide to send in the right crew members in the right time at certain places during this suicide mission. If you don't have all these things, crew members will die. If you neglect to do anything, your Shepard will be killed. Now, that leads into a big negative here for me. The materials you need to gather for your ship upgrades, the way you get these is by exploring other planets. And since they received the feedback about the Mako, they decided to remove it from the game as opposed to reworking it. Instead, replacing it with the most boring fucking minigame I have ever fucking played. This shit is so boring, I'd rather watch paint dry. The sad bit is, again, you are forced to do these things unless you want your crew to die during that final mission. Now, they do bring characters back from the first game to make cameos in this one, allowing for a sense of nostalgia and longing for them to join your team in the fight against the Collectors. Unfortunately, only two will join your team from the first game. But, let's get back to where BioWare really succeeded with this, and that's in the gameplay. Now, with the first game, they went pretty far with the RPG elements when it came to the weapons and armor all providing you varying stats. This time around, however, they streamlined the whole approach with weapons and armor. They made the weapons feel a lot more unique in both look and feel, and they made the armor more of a cosmetic item. So rather than forcing you into an ugly looking set of armor that you wore just because of the stats, you were able to wear something that gave you a sense of power and something that looked cool. Another thing they simplified is the weapon system. This time they've gotten rid of the overheating in place for a more traditional reloading system. but they've also started restricting the weapons you can carry even by your class. On the plus side, however, to make up for this, they've granted you a heavy weapon that deals massive amounts of damage, and you can pick up more weapons all throughout the game. So what these changes ultimately accomplish is that they truly help to make every weapon in this game more unique and more special than it was in the first. Another thing I have to mention here is the enemy types. Now, BioWare has put in a lot of effort into making each type of enemy unique, especially in the way you have to go about defeating them. One such example here is how during your fights with the Collectors, Harbinger, who's presented as the leader of the Collectors this time around, takes direct control of one of his underlings. They buff him, and it gives him special abilities. Another way to look at this is even look at the differences between the enemies in the Blue Suns during the Archangel recruiting mission. Each enemy truly approaches you in a definitive way, and it gives you memorable battles at every turn. But enough about that, let's go ahead and move on to the sound design. So in regards to the sound design, once again, BioWare has just knocked it out of the park. Again, they took huge steps forward when they listened to criticisms of the first game. So instead of making it looping beeps and bloops, they went out of their way to create a unique soundscape with the music in regards to each environment, and it really shows. Now, when there's an amazing track that highlights a special moment, you truly feel the impact, such as the reveal of the rebuilt Normandy. They also took the time to improve on the weapon noises. No longer making them all sound alike, they gave them unique firing sounds, reload sounds, and even empty chamber sounds. One of the biggest things that this game does so much better than the first is the DLC support. Now, the first Mass Effect game only had 2 DLCs to choose from. One is Pinnacle Station, and Pinnacle Station was so bad that even EA had pulled it from sale. Now, we all know how much EA loves to make money. The other was Bring Down the Sky, and that really helped to add on to the story of the first game by presenting you with a terrorism situation that you needed to defuse. But getting back to the way Mass Effect 2 handled the DLC, it was amazing. But while not all the DLC offered was good, one of the good bits is that it didn't seem like the DLC was cut out of the game and then sold to us later. All it did was really add on to the overall feeling of the game as opposed to filling holes. From adding memorable characters such as Kasumi Goto to Zaid the Mercenary, they also went to help pander to some nostalgia with a Normandy crash site. And they even gave us some of the best DLC released ever in Lair of the Shadow Broker. And that adds on some of the best standalone story-driven content I have ever played. Now, I know it seems like I'm presenting this game as if it has no cons, but that is not the case. There is still plenty wrong with this game. Limiting the weapon options you can carry based on your class is one of those. Another one is that boring as hell scanning system. And all in all, you cannot get away from this bullshit morality system. While it presents it to you that you can play as you want, what it really means is that unless you want some of your members to die, you have to commit to one side or the other. Because if you don't, you won't be able to talk your way out of situations that would remove crew members from being loyal. So all it does is give you the illusion of choice. Now, there's one small bit of the game I'm about to tear apart, mainly due to its disconnect from the game. So, spoiler alert. Look in the comments for a timestamp or the annotation here to know where to skip the video to. Now, somewhere in the middle of the game, your ship gets boarded and all of your crew is abducted save for Jeff, Joker, Moreau. For some reason, all team members are put into the shuttle as explanation for them not being abducted as well. Now, with that, why the fuck can't we bring more than 2 members on any given mission? I understand the gameplay complications, but all that does is tear me out of the immersion I experience right in the middle of the game. While I will praise this point for actually putting you into the shoes of Joker as you try to help stop and survive the Collector attack on the Normandy, I will, however, mark this as one of the biggest immersion-breaking moments in the entire series, and as such, a huge low point for me. The other low point I had was the discovery that the Collectors are attempting to build a human Collector out of the remains of the abducted humans, and while it was supposed to be a surprise, it just ended up being a disappointment. So, taking the entire game as a whole, with the amazing elements like the characterization, the soundtrack, and the revised weapon and armor system, we also have to take in poor elements such as the scanning minigame. I have to give this game still a 9 out of 10. It's not perfect, and I don't believe any game I've ever actually played is. But this game truly is the best in its series, and with the way it used the DLC to actually add onto the game, on top of the fantastic bits that were already in the base game, you need to play this, and there's no excuse for not picking it up with how cheap you can get it on both Steam, Origin, and again, the trilogy that's on G2A. You can even get it on Xbox 360 for very cheap. There's no excuse. Go pick this up. Alright everyone, thanks for watching the video. I really do hope you enjoy watching it as much as I loved making it. As always, don't forget to like the video if you liked it, hit dislike if you didn't, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, but don't forget, have a splendid day.